You meet her at a bookstore arguing with the cashier about a misplaced Dostoevsky. Not rudely, precisely, the way someone corrects a factual error that matters. The cashier moves the book and she nods once like justice has been served. You are standing behind her, holding a book you now feel embarrassed about owning. She turns and looks at your book with an expression you cannot fully categorize. She says it is not bad for a starting point and walks to the exit. You follow her outside because something about that sentence requires a follow-up question. You talk on the pavement for 90 minutes and miss your dinner reservation entirely. You don't mention the reservation because somehow this is more important than dinner. She answers your first call, not your first text, your first actual phone call. She picks up on the second ring and says your name like she expected it. You ask how she knew it was you, and she says she looked at the screen. This is somehow the most straightforward thing anyone has ever said to you. You talk for an hour and she ends the call without warning or apology. She simply says she has something to do now and the call is over. You sit holding the phone for a moment and then start looking forward to the next one. She tells you on the third date that hope is just planning without information. You think this is dark and say so directly because you're learning to be direct. She says it isn't dark. It is what separates hoping from actually doing something. You argue about this for 40 minutes and she wins and you both know it. You drive home and find yourself agreeing with her without being able to explain when. Her kitchen is the most organized room you have ever entered in your entire life. Every label faces forward, every container has a designated and logical position. The spices are alphabetical, and this seems excessive until you need paprika immediately. You find it in 2 seconds and stand there holding it with a new understanding. Your own kitchen has 7 mystery containers, and none of them are labeled at all. She visits your kitchen once and says nothing for an amount of time that feels significant. She returns on Saturday with a label maker and reorganizes everything while you watch. She doesn't ask permission and doesn't require commentary and finishes in 40 minutes exactly. You will never again spend 4 minutes looking for the cumin, and this changes your life. She can read a person's mood from across a crowded room before speaking to them. You watch her redirect an entire dinner party conversation away from a topic someone found painful. The person never knew it happened. She did it through questions, not deflection. You ask how she knew something was wrong, and she says the shoulders told her. Their shoulders were slightly different, and she read it and responded before it became visible. You start watching shoulders, and it takes you 6 months to understand even half of it. She doesn't compliment you often, and this makes every compliment she gives extraordinary. She says once that you ask good questions and you remember where you were standing. You were by the window, it was raining, she said it while reading her book. You replay it occasionally, not because you need validation, but because it was so specific. She noticed something precise about you and named it without being asked to notice anything. This is more intimate than anything anyone has said about you in recent memory. Her superstitions appear gradually, like new rules in a country you've decided to stay in. You shake hands with her across a threshold once, and she steps outside immediately. Handshakes across doorways break whatever agreement you just made. This is simply true. You spill salt at dinner, and she takes a pinch and throws it backward over her shoulder. Left shoulder, always the left, the right does nothing. Her grandmother was specific about this. You leave an empty bottle on the table and she removes it before you notice. Empty bottles on tables bring poverty into the house, and she did not invite poverty. You buy her flowers and count them standing in the shop before approaching the register. Odd numbers only. You count 11, which is correct, and she receives them without counting. She doesn't count because she trusts you now, and trust is how she communicates arrival. Her father calls on Saturdays, and the call is longer than you expect every time. You hear the cadence of it from the next room. Steady, serious, occasional laughter. After the call, she is quieter for approximately 1 hour, and you have learned to allow this. She comes back to you when she is ready, and never when you come looking. You stop coming to look for her, and she starts coming back faster than before. She tells you her father wants to know if you make her laugh occasionally, not constantly, occasionally, which he apparently considers the appropriate and sustainable frequency. You say you try, and she says she told him that and he accepted it. A man who never met you accepted you based on trying, and you find this moving. You meet the father after 6 months, and she prepares you differently than you expect. She doesn't tell you what to wear or what to bring or what to avoid. She tells you one thing only. Be exactly who you are and don't perform. He will know if you perform, and it will be the only thing he remembers. You arrive with nothing but yourself, and this is apparently the correct and only thing. He opens the door and looks at you the way someone reads a map, thoroughly. He shakes your hand with both of his and leads you to the kitchen table. Dark bread already sliced, pickled vegetables in a jar, cold cuts arranged without ceremony. He pours you something clear from an unlabeled bottle and raises his glass without speaking. You raise yours and drink it completely, because leaving any in the glass would mean something. He nods and pours again, and the conversation begins and does not stop for 3 hours. He talks about history, literature, the specific failures of optimism across different political systems. You listen more than you speak, and he notices and refills your glass when it empties. On the way home, she says her father called you a serious person as a compliment. You have never been called serious as a compliment before, and it fits better than you expected. The food she makes follows a logic that has nothing to do with recipes or measurements. She makes her grandmother's soup by smell and by the sound the pot makes while simmering. You ask how long it needs, and she says until it smells finished, which is not helpful. Over months, you start to understand what finished smells like, and this feels like an achievement. She makes vareniki on Sunday afternoons and assigns you the dough without explanation or instruction. You make the dough wrong 3 times, and she corrects your hands each time without words. On the 4th attempt, she lets your hands work without correcting them and says nothing. You understand that nothing means the dough is right, and this understanding is its own language. She watches you eat the finished vareniki with the specific attention of someone awaiting a verdict. You eat everything in the bowl and look up, and she has already looked away. Looking away means it was good. You learn to read the looking away correctly. She does not say she loves you for so long you stop counting the days. Love in her language is a set of recurring and specific actions that accumulate over time. She learns exactly how you take your coffee without asking you a single direct question. She observes, files, applies. The coffee arrives correct every morning without a word exchanged. She notices when you haven't slept and cancels plans you didn't ask her to cancel. She reads the same book you're reading so you have someone to be wrong with. When she finally says it, you are doing something completely ordinary and washing dishes after dinner. She says it to the back of your head while drying a bowl, and you go still. You turn around, and she's already looking at something else like the sentence just escaped. You don't make it a moment because she didn't make it a moment. You just nod. She nods back, and you both return to the dishes, and something has permanently changed. Her friends test you at the first dinner with silences rather than questions or conversation. Long, deliberate gaps where the table waits to see what you do with empty space. You wait with them instead of filling the space, and this turns out to be correct. One of them, the quietest one, asks you what you regret, and you answer honestly. The answer is specific and uncomfortable and true, and the table shifts almost imperceptibly towards you. Her closest friend raises a glass in your direction without making eye contact or speaking. Your girlfriend says nothing, but her posture changes slightly, and you have learned to read posture. You are in now, not invited in, earned in, which is the only way that counts. Christmas preparation begins 10 days in advance with a list she has written in 2 languages. You are assigned to source specific things from specific places and given no alternatives. The dark bread comes from one bakery only, and you learn the route without being asked again. She makes kutia on Christmas Eve. Wheat berries, honey, poppy seeds, walnuts, dried fruit. You sit at the table and she places a single candle in the center and lights it. She explains that the first star of Christmas Eve begins the meal. You wait for the star. You both stand at the window in the dark waiting, and she points when she sees it. You see it half a second after she points, and she counts that as simultaneous. The meal begins, and she serves 12 dishes because 12 is the number and has always been. You eat all 12, and the table is quiet and warm and completely outside of ordinary time. She pours the specific drink that comes from somewhere precise and cannot be substituted for anything. You drink it correctly. No ice, no mixer, no performance, just the glass raised and then empty. She refills yours before you ask, and this is how you know something is being celebrated. She moves in on a gray Tuesday with 4 boxes and no ceremony whatsoever about it. Her books reorganize yours by existing near them. Hers have more gravity, and they win. She hangs one photograph on the wall, black and white, a village, a woman, her grandmother. She doesn't explain it, and you don't ask, and it belongs there more than anything you owned. Her coat at the door makes the hallway look like someone actually lives there now properly. You are tidier without being told to be tidier, and this happens through proximity alone. She never raises her voice in the apartment, and you stop raising yours within 3 weeks. The apartment is quieter than it has ever been, and somehow also fuller than it has ever been. Her grandmother sends a package from back home twice a year without fail or announcement. It arrives in a battered box sealed with extraordinary amounts of tape and serious intention. Inside, dried mushrooms wrapped in newspaper, a jar of something preserved 6 months ago, lard. Real lard in a ceramic container with a handwritten label in her grandmother's specific handwriting. She opens the mushrooms and smells them, and her face does something private and brief. You pretend not to see it because you have learned when to look away on purpose. She makes a soup from the mushrooms that takes 4 hours and fills the entire building. Neighbors knock to ask what is cooking, and she tells them, and they nod with recognition. You eat it and understand for the first time what it means to taste a place. She watches you finish the bowl and says her grandmother would have fed you more. This is the highest compliment in the available language, and you receive it correctly. It is an ordinary evening now, and she is reading on her side of the couch. You are reading on yours, and the apartment holds its specific and earned quietness around you. The photograph of her grandmother is on the wall, and the lamplight reaches it correctly. She finishes a page, and without looking up, she asks what you are thinking about. Not how you are, what you are thinking, which is the question she always asks. You tell her, and it is true, and she considers it and returns to her page. You return to yours, and outside it is cold in the way she says is normal. The soup is in the refrigerator from 2 days ago, and there is enough for tomorrow. She planned for tomorrow before tomorrow existed, and this is simply what she does always. You are still learning her language, the silences, the superstitions, the grandmother's rules made permanent. You are learning it without complaint, the way she taught you to make the dough. Slowly, with correction, with patience, until the motion becomes yours and the knowing becomes yours.